Long, long ago in the land of Bozark lived a lark, a shark, and a dog with a bark. Bozark was peaceful, especially these three. The lark would sing quite cheerfully, the dog with a bark would lie lazily under the shade of a Bozark tree, and the shark would swim in the Bozark sea, thinking, "What fun it is to be me." The fragile lark with feathers so stark would soar on high in the Bozark sky. He always seemed happy, although a bit shy, and then one day he chirped with a sigh.
"It's time for me to make my mark. I want to be king in the land of Bozark. A proper king must be able to fly, way up in the air, high up in the sky. I can gaze o'er the land and out to the sea. The dog and the shark must look up and see me."
Then way down below, the dog with a bark jumped up on all fours and yelped at the lark.
"You, a bird with feathers so stark? But surely you're joking, or off on a lark. I can run fast on land, I can drink from the sea, I can leap up and nip at a bird in a tree. If one should be king, then it ought to be me."
Well, news travels fast on the waves of the sea, where the shark raised his jaw and said,
"How about me? I can dive, I can splash, I can swim in a flash. With this fin and this grin, I'm sure I should win."
Continued the shark.
"All the fish must come before me to assemble. If not, just the sight of my jaw makes them tremble. The lark and the dog would drown 1, 2, 3, while the depths of the ocean pay homage to me."
Said the dog with a bark.
"Your jaw does no good once you come to the sand. I'm asking, how could you be king of the land? I've got canine eyes that glow in the dark, and I'll scare all away with the sound of my bark."
And followed the lark with feathers so stark.
"Your bark does no good high up in the air, nor a jaw with such teeth, now I must declare. I can see so much more than you both from the sky. I say, laissez-faire. I say, let's all fly."
They continued to argue from noon until dark, and none would agree to a king of Bozark. After 42 days they reached no conclusion, and resolved there was only one last solution. They decided to visit the wise old Fark, who lived high atop the Mount of Ozark. Now there was a man of wisdom and brain, and he would reveal which king should take reign. So they traveled by paw, by fin, and by feather, o'er land, sea, and air, through all sorts of weather. At last they climbed to the Mount of Ozark, where deep in thought sat the wise old Fark. The lark first began with his plea to the king. Then the dog and the shark did the very same thing, each extolled for his talents in air, land, and sea, when the wise old Fark shook his head at the three.
"I'm king,"
Thought the lark.
"I'm king,"
Thought the shark.
"Now I must be king."
Thought the dog with the bark. And as each drew near in anticipation, the old Fark spoke with no hesitation.
"You've wasted much time and have argued in vain in trying to step far beyond your domain. The answer's so simple, it's quite plain to see. Cannot a king be each of you three? You, the lark with feathers so stark, leave the grass to the dog and the sea to the shark. And you, the dog with the mighty bark, leave the sea to the shark and the sky to the lark. And finally, shark, the sea's where you grew. The sand and the sky are just not for you."
Well, the three knew the old Fark to be very clever and promised to try out this peaceful endeavor. So, the lark, the shark, and the dog with the bark did heed the advice of the wise old Fark. They returned to Bozark and lived happily, each as king, at the best they could be. The end.